Hey, my name is Lindsay, and today I am going to be talking about labels. So, when you hear the word label, what's the first thought that comes into your mind? Maybe it's the information you see on a can of your favorite soda, or on a bag of your favorite chips, or favorite candy. Or maybe it's the papers that you see when you go to the store that give you all of the information on the products that are being sold there. Google's definition of label says that it's a small piece of paper, piece of fabric, plastic, or similar material attached to an object and giving information about it. So today, I am going to be talking about labels, but I am going to be talking about it from a different point of view. So instead of thinking of labels as pieces of paper that have information on it about a certain product or something of that nature, think of labels in terms of what people have called you. Maybe in your past, maybe currently. What are people speaking over your life? So that is what I want to talk to you about today. And some examples that I have experienced and that I've heard of other people being labeled as in their life is maybe dumb, worthless, good for nothing, or fat or ugly. Maybe people have made comments about your appearances or just telling you that you're not smart or just something really, really negative like that. And I want to give you an example of a negative label that had been placed over my life in my childhood. And I just want to walk you through all that it did to me and the process of me overcoming that label and not wearing, quote unquote, that label on myself anymore. So when I was a child, I was in elementary school, and I was constantly being made fun of because I had a lisp. And the reason why I had a lisp was because I had an underbite. And basically an underbite is whenever your bottom layer teeth overlap your top layer. And so I literally was like, I looked like this, and I talked with a lisp because of that. And it's really funny to think about now, but it really took a toll on me when I was a child. And so I remember going to school all the time, and I would just be walking in the hallways. I would be going to the bathroom, minding my own business. And then these little boys would come up to me and they would make a comment about my lisp. And because I had this lisp, what it did was it affected the way that I spoke. So, for example, I couldn't say my S's the correct way that they're supposed to be said. I couldn't speak necessarily the same way that other people could speak, and so people would notice that about me, and it was almost like they would automatically point that out about me, like they would just look at me and say, oh yeah, that's Lisp girl, like she has a lisp. And so I remember just constantly being made fun of for that. And it may be something that seems so small and just so like simple, but to me at the time it was a big thing. And so because of the things that were constantly being spoken over my life about my lisp, I began to believe that, and I began to take that on as my identity. I began to see that as who I was, like, oh, I'm just this girl that has a lisp, and that's who I am. I can't speak the way that everybody else speaks, and I'm just going to be made fun of my whole life. And so I just took that on as my identity, and I wore that label. Figuratively, I wore that label, on my shirt. Just like a label would be on a Coke or on a bag of chips, I wore that on my shirt. And so every day I went to school and I would just kind of wait for it, like, okay, well, who's gonna say something about it this time, because I was just always expecting that because it happened so much. And fortunately for me, when I was in middle school, I was able to get it all taken care of. There was a process that I had to go through. I had to have braces for about 4 years, and then I had to wear an expander on the roof of my mouth. And it wasn't a very fun process, honestly. It was a little bit painful. But luckily, at the end of that, I was able to get my braces off. I was able to stop wearing my expander, and it fixed my lisp completely. Or at least that's what it was supposed to do. So it's really funny because I went through that whole process, and, I got the help necessary, but I didn't see the full progress because my belief about myself at that time hadn't changed. Because even though I went through that process and I was able to get everything fixed and my jaw moved around to where I had a correct overbite and I was able to talk the way that I was supposed to talk, my mind didn't fully click with that. And so even though my mouth was the way it was supposed to be and my teeth were the way that they were supposed to be, I noticed how I would still, every once in a while, I would stumble and I would kind of stutter with my lisp, not because the problem hadn't been fixed, but because I would continually go back to the things that had been spoken over me and just the identity that I had taken on, that I am just this girl with a lisp. But it's amazing because it just got to this point where I realized in myself that I don't have to continue to wear that label on my shirt. And I don't have to continue to believe that about myself because it was already fixed and it was in the past. And so when I came to that realization, it was just like I completely stopped talking with a lisp. Like my attitude changed, and it was just like a complete and total transformation for me. And so I want to tell you today that it's until we realize that we have the ability to reject or to accept those things that are being spoken over our lives, we will always have the same mindset and we will never see positive changes. Because I know so many people that have had so many negative things spoken over their lives, and I have as well. More so just than being called lisp girl. I remember growing up in high school and I was in a really bad relationship with this guy that would always call me stupid and he would always call me worthless. And because of that, I fell into depression, and I noticed that my grades started slipping in school. I wasn't as concerned with my grades as much as I used to be in the past, and it just completely affected everything about me. It affected my actions, the way that I walked, the way that I talked, the way that I handled situations. And so I want you to know today that you have the power to be able to reject the negative things that have been spoken over your life. Maybe, like I said earlier, you've been told your whole life that you are stupid or you are dumb. Or maybe you've been told that you are worthless. Maybe you have been told that you don't have a purpose. But I'm here to tell you today that none of those things are true. It doesn't matter what led people to say those things about you. It doesn't matter if you made a mistake and you messed up and that's why people said those things about you. Absolutely none of that matters, because those negative things are not who you are. Because you are amazing and you are awesome and you are going to do such great things with your life and you have a purpose. So I just wanted to encourage you with that today and just kind of leave you with a challenge to take those negative things that have been spoken over you and just tell yourself, I'm not going to believe that. It doesn't matter if you've believed it for years or if you've maybe just believed it for a few days. Stop it now and tell yourself, no, I'm not going to believe that. It doesn't matter what I've done in my past. It doesn't matter what mistakes I've made that have led people to speak those negative words over my life. But I am not going to accept that. And I would just tell you to, instead of accepting those things, just speak positive things over your life, because there is so much power in your words. There is so much power in the things that you say. So I just want to leave y'all with that today. Just remind yourself who you are daily. Not what other people have told you, not what other people have spoken on you and tried to label you as, but remember who you are and remind yourself who you are daily.